I would like to call to order this meeting of the Keller ISD Board of Trustees virtual meeting. Today is March the 23rd, 2020, and it is 7 p.m. And because we're kind of in unusual circumstances, I'm going to do something a little unusual before our pledges, and I would like for us to bow for a quick word of prayer. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the ability to do this. I pray, Lord, for our students, our teachers, and for our country, Father. We need your guidance, and we thank you that you're available to us. Amen.
Amen.
All right. The next item on the agenda are the pledges of allegiance. So pardon us while we stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice. Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Repeated. All right, the next item on our agenda is the audience with individuals. And in response to COVID-19, the governor of Texas has banned all gatherings of over 10 people. To abide by that directive and to protect the health of our community, Keller ISD requests that anyone wishing to speak to the board do so using the electronic form that has been established on the district's board meeting website. All comments made will be shared with the trustees and thoughtfully considered. Ms. Bigby has those comments.
We have one comment tonight from Randy Caltrone, and it reads, the Keller ISD support staff and paraprofessionals play a critical role in the education of the children. The support staff, including the janitorial team, administrative support teams, and paraprofessional educators, provide value to the educational process similar to the professional education staff. Although these individuals are certainly compensated substantially less in terms of pay and benefits. Many of these individuals could find employment outside the district with pay and benefits greater than what is provided by the district, but many are dedicated to serving children and aiding in their education. The district should continue to recognize the value of these employees and continue to pay their weekly hourly wages while the schools are in temporary shutdown. Not doing so would be to dishonor these employees and undoubtedly force many to find immediate work outside of Keller ISD.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bigby. And that's the only one we had?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
This is Karina, so moved.
Okay, sorry, we're figuring this out. I'll say Ms. Davis has first. Do I have a second?
This is Ruth. Second.
Okay. All right. Has Ruthie joined us? There she is. All right. Ms. Keys joined us at what time? 7:04.
No,
All right.
I've been,
So, because of the different format,
I haven't seen my picture.
Okay. Because we're in a different format, I'm going to go through the trustees and I'm going to have you say approve or oppose. Okay. Will that be clear enough, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Roof.
This is Chris Roof. I approve.
Okay. Mr. Allen.
Approved.
Ms. Keys.
Approved.
Mr. Schofield.
Approved.
Ms. Dixon.
Approved.
And Ms. Davis.
Approved.
And I approve. So that's a 7-0 vote. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our action items. The first action item is action item 5A. It's the adoption of the resolution regarding delegation of authority during the COVID-19 emergency.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
That's
If you'll move with me to page 30 of your board book, and it's here on your screen. I'm bringing to you the adoption of a resolution regarding delegation of authority during the COVID-19 emergency. Since Friday, March 13th, which seems about 6 years ago, we have been following the recommendations of the Tarrant County health officials and now the directives from the governor regarding our emergency shutdown. The resolution has a lot of whereases, and the way most resolutions do. Most of those are to establish the historical situation we're in. And some of them also have legal significance, declaring an emergency, declaring this a catastrophe, and some things like that. The crux of the resolution, though, is a recommendation that you delegate certain authorities temporarily to the superintendent. Our resolution is situated where it will be able to be revoked at any time by you and will be in place until you do revoke it. The list of those recommended delegations are here. We recommend that you delegate the authority relating to payment of employees, including but not limited to paying overtime, premium, and compensatory time during the emergency. The authority to create guidelines and make determinations related to absences and leaves for individuals who test positive for the virus. Authority to adjust local deadlines relating to employee evaluations. The authority to seek any necessary waivers from TEA or other agencies. The authority to apply for and receive federal or state aid that might be available. The authority to sign documents on your behalf so we don't come knocking at your door getting you sick. The authority to act outside of any and all policies relating to grading, report cards, and other instructional parameters. The authority to declare a catastrophe and temporarily suspend responses to the Texas Public Information Act, primarily because we don't have access to most of our records at this time. The authority to procure goods and services that are necessary immediately during the emergency in the event that we do have a situation that requires that. The authority to negotiate and execute interlocal agreements if need be, and also the authority to accept any and all gifts and donations. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees adopt this resolution as presented.
Thank you, Amanda. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Craig Allen would like to make a motion that we accept this resolution.
All right. Do I have a second?
Karina, I'll second.
Okay. Karina, Chris?
That was Karina. Okay.
Yes. And so let me have questions. Let's start with Ms. Dixon. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Karina, do you have questions?
No questions.
All right. Craig, do you have questions?
No questions.
All right. Chris?
I have no questions.
Okay. Brad, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to, I think what we need to do is put like some kind of sunset time in this. So I want to make a motion to amend it to add a 90-day expiration date to it.
Okay, so there's been a motion made. Do I have a second for that motion? Do I have a second? Okay, so no second. So we'll move on back to the original motion. Brad, did you have any other questions?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Ruthie, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, so is that all? Have I asked everybody? I do have one question about the I'm a little I just want to know what your process is going to be for letting us know that you've made these decisions. Like, are we going to let the public know about that, or is that just going to be a board thing, or what's that going to look like? Dr. Westphal?
Yeah, we can do this however you want. I mean, it's really, the intent of this is obviously, like in the first bullet, is to address the payment of our paras. And then everything after that, it's really more about if we've got to make decisions on the fly that normally would require board action, that we might not be able to wait until a meeting can be posted and brought up.
Okay.
But I can, very similar to what we do any other time, if anything has to be acted on as it relates to this resolution, I can send text messages or emails to the board members to let them know that we're having to take action as a result of the resolution. I see another bullet that is 7 bullets in that talks about grading and report cards, and we're right at smack in the middle of trying to figure out what that looks like, and might have to make a decision on that before the April board meeting. But certainly the board members, and in that particular case, the entire community, is going to know what action we've had to take as it relates to this last 4th 9 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, for sure, anything we do won't be done behind closed doors. We'll make sure at a minimum the board knows, and then depending on what the decision is or what action we're having to take, it could very well be a community communication as well.
Okay. Well, I'm, is everybody more comfortable with that? I mean, I never thought that you were going to do things in secret, but
I know.
knowing,
That's a good question though.
just that we've stated that publicly, that we're going to know when those kinds of things happen. Does anybody have any other questions before we take a vote?
I might, does that help Brad maybe with the time frame? You know, because I mean, obviously it's until this is over, you know, and so is that because, was that stated on there that it's from now until time that it's?
It actually, well, Amanda, you go to wherever you were going. I saw something else too.
We'll have another
This section,
board-
the last therefore
May
resolved.
until revoked, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the thing is that we're going to have we'll have a board meeting in April.
Right.
We'll be able to reevaluate this. And if we're finding that it hasn't been as necessary or whatever, we can always just revoke it then.
Right.
We don't even have to wait 90 days. We can do it before 90 days if that's what has to happen. It's just that in this crunch time, it'll give you more leeway to act.
And to Brad's question, what we'll do is we'll make a note, and if for whatever reason we don't have to bring it up or bring it back, at a minimum, we will make sure that, what would 90 days be from now? The June board meeting, that if it hasn't already been revoked by then, we will bring the resolution back in the June board meeting so the board can take action on it at that point, if it needs to be. So that will kind of create that 90-day window without changing the language in the resolution.
Okay, so you'll bring it back in June, you're thinking? If everything calms down, you know?
That'll create and that's a good idea. So that'll create our 90-day window, and that way the board can take a look based on what's going on in the community or what's going on in the state. Does this resolution even need to be in place anymore? And I would like to think that we can bring this back earlier than 90 days, and I actually hope we can, because that means things have settled down even before June.
Right.
But on the outset, what we can do is make a note, and I let the board decide if they want to make that. That'll be an administrative expectation, and that's something I can let you guys know, that in June we'll make a note that this resolution will come back to dissolve it if it's time for it to be dissolved at that point.
Okay, that sounds good, because to me, there's parts in it that if we weren't under an emergency situation would probably be in violation of state law. You know, when you're talking about, you know, there's some things in it that, you know, about when people have a requesting information, freedom of,
right.
You know, we're kind of putting that on hold for now. But if it wasn't an emergency situation, you really couldn't do that, I don't think.
Right. So yeah, we'll for sure, once everything settles, and especially if things start getting removed, then the very next board meeting we'll bring it back to evaluate.
Okay.
Mr. Schofield, I will tell you, just for public information specifically, you're right. If it not for the emergency, we wouldn't be allowed to do that. But there are emergency parameters within the government code.
Right.
We're still responding to them the best we can if we have electronic records. But it gives us a little bit of flexibility in the event we have hard copy requests we can't get to.
Right. I understand it, because you could easily be overloaded at this time with that, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And I think if everybody's good with that, I think that's a good solution to make sure that we're bringing it back no later than June.
Yeah.
Hopefully earlier.
Okay, so any other questions? All right, so all those in favor, approve or oppose? Brad?
Approved.
Okay. Ruthie?
Approved.
Okay. Karina?
Approved.
Bev,
Approved.
Chris,
Approve.
and Craig.
Approved.
Okay, and I approve. So 7-0. All right. So the next item on the agenda is to consider all matters incident and related to the issuance of the sale of Keller Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds in one or more series, including the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of such bonds and establishing procedures and delegating authority for the sale and the delivery of such bonds. Okay,
You did that very well.
thank you.
Whether the district does a new money offering or a refunding, we always need to do two things. We need to apply to the TEA for the permanent school fund guarantee, which takes 10 days. We need to have ratings calls with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and we need to have a board meeting. Interest rates have gone in a direction so low that I'd like to have the board grant us the authority to do a bond refunding and give us that parameter authority for a year. The KISD does this, a number of them does this. It takes one of the three things off the list of having to get done before we can do a refunding. We have board meetings once a month. This would allow us a little more flexibility in getting refundings done in this low interest rate environment. If you look in the body of the agenda item, it talks about a 4% present value minimum savings. That means the cash flow savings when present valued back the current time are 4% or more of the refunded principal. We normally get this figure to be 7, 8, 9, 10%. We put it down at 4 because of the low interest rates now. So this just allows us some flexibility in getting into the financial markets to do a bond refunding without having to wait for a board meeting. So the administration recommends the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the issuance and sale of Keller Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds in one or more series.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Ruthie, do I have a second?
Second.
Karina, okay. Ruthie, do you have any questions?
None.
Okay, Craig, any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, Karina?
No questions. I think this is great. We always do such a great job with these refundings and save a lot of money. So I like the fact that even in everything else going on, we're still keeping on top of it. So thank you, Mark.
Yes. Chris?
No questions.
Okay, Brad, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Mark.
Okay,
This is just refunding on bonds that are what, greater than 10 year or 10 years and greater?
This is any of the issues other than the 19 and the 20 issues, any of the older issues that are older than that, regardless of maturities.
Okay, thank you.
Bev, any questions? Okay, so I don't have any questions either. I thank you again, Mark, for keeping on top of this and jumping on every opportunity that you have to save us some money. So with that, I'm going to go down the roll. Ask for oppose or approve. Brad?
Approve.
Okay. Bev?
Approved.
Chris?
Approved.
Craig?
Approved.
Karina?
Approved.
Ruthie?
Approved.
And I approve. That's everybody, right?
Yes.
All right, 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the renewal of the Sodexo contract. Oh, sorry, that's not it. The
Not
next
yet.
item on the agenda is action item 5C, the approval of bond technology purchases exceeding $50,000.
Thank you. This item is for the wireless infrastructure upgrade, as well as a revised proposal for the upgrade of the district's IP telephony phone system. Back in February, you approved roughly $940,000 for our new phone system. And about a week after that approval, we discovered that Cisco came out with a newer model of classroom phones that would provide more integration with our security systems. So we were recommending that we increase that proposal by $128,000 to include that. And this is well within our bond fund preparation that we've already done. In addition, we have a recommendation for $10,600,000 $75,598 for our new wireless infrastructure. That's well within our budget. This went out for proposals and E-rate, and we are recommending both of these items. They have been presented to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and approved. And so with that, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the technology purchases as presented.
All right, thank you, Joe. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
This is
Okay,
Chris. I'll second that.
okay, Chris second, Ruthie first. All right. Any questions for Joe about this? Anybody?
Yes.
Chris, question?
I was gonna say, this is Chris. More of a, thank you for all the work done on this. Obviously, this was a critical piece of the bond program for 19 going forward. And so I appreciate all the work on this and the recognizing the importance of making sure that the equipment that we have integrates well into our security systems. That's an important piece of what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Craig, any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is this another one of the like short-term or these shorter-term payback, 5-year maybe?
Yes, these are, and Mark can correct me if I'm mistaken, but these are 5-year bonds that we are selling for these purchases right here, short term.
Mark, you're muted.
All right.
What was your answer? Mark, were you affirming Joe? I heard.
I'm trying to unmute.
There you go. You're unmuted.
Well, and we've all learned this week that apparently wireless and internet connectivity is pretty important. So,
Well, you think?
so I'd say let's do it. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not voting
Oh,
yet.
wait, we're not there yet. Don't jump the
No,
gun.
I just asked my question. I'm good.
Karina, any questions?
No, no questions.
All right. Ruthie, any questions?
No.
Brad, any questions?
No,
No?
no. no.
Okay. Okay. Did I ask everybody? This is
You didn't ask
confusing.
me, but I don't have any questions. It's
Okay, sorry, Beth. You're not everybody's on my screen, so it's really throwing me off. All right, so we're going to go back through and I'm going to ask for approval or opposite or oppose. Bev?
Approve.
Ruthie? Ruthie?
Approve.
Okay. Chris?
Approved.
Brad?
Approve.
Okay. Craig?
Approve.
And anybody else? Me, right? I.
I was gonna say you.
Oh, Karina, sorry.
There you go. I was gonna. You had one more.
Approve?
Yes, approve.
All right, okay. All right, so all in favor, 7-0. Okay, we'll get this down, guys.
All
We're
good.
good.
In 90 days, I'll be really good at this.
All good.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the approval for the action item 5D, approval of the renewal of the Sodexo contract for the child nutrition services for 2020-2021.
Hello, everybody. This is Lori Vachon. Please note on this, you can see the action item that the Sodexo guarantee to Keller ISD does remain the same as it was in this fiscal year at the $1.94 million. This renewal represents the third amendment and the fourth year of our current 5-year agreement between the district and Sodexo. As you see, the increase in the fixed, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, fixed meal equivalency is moving from 1.8405 to 1.8994, which is in line with the 3.2% increase. Please note that any increases in lunch prices, however, were not being discussed this evening. Those will be discussed later this summer. That is just the meal rate and does not affect our guarantee. Please also note that this renewal document has been reviewed and approved by legal counsel. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the contract renewal with Sodexo for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
Right, thank you. We've had a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
This is Karina, so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is Ruthie, second.
Ruthie, second, okay. All right, any questions for Lori? Karina, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, Chris, any questions for Karina? Or for, no. Any questions for Karina?
I do.
Deb, any questions for Lori? Okay, you're muted. Brad, any questions for Lori?
No.
Okay. Craig, any questions for Lori?
I have no questions.
All right. Anybody else that I missed to have any
No
questions?
question.
Me again.
And me.
Oh,
No
I
question.
asked you first, didn't I?
No,
Oh, sorry.
no questions.
It's because you're upstairs. All right.
Stairs now.
All right. I don't have any questions. I do have to say that I've been very, very impressed with the work that Sodexo's done this week with getting our meals and our service out to our kiddos. It was overwhelming for me to watch, and I just want to pass that on to Sodexo if they're watching. So with that, all those in favor, Bev, approve or oppose? Okay. Ruthie,
Approved.
Brad,
Approved.
okay. Chris,
Approve.
Craig,
Approve.
Karina,
Approved.
and I approve. That's everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 7-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the memorandum of understanding between Keller Independent School District and the Tarleton State University regarding the Distinguished High School Partnership Program.
This one's mine, and under normal circumstances, it probably wouldn't be, but I was paid a visit by Tarleton State before the break for something that is, honestly, there's a lot of universities that are beginning to do something like this. But because we're right up against the timeline of applications, I wanted to be sure we got it in front of the board in March so that our kids would be aware of it. Keller ISD will collaborate with Tarleton State University and is in what they call a Distinguished High School Partnership Program for the benefit of its students regarding admission to the university upon graduation from Keller ISD. Memorandum of Understanding has been prepared outlining the benefits Tarleton will provide to Keller ISD students, including but not limited to granting automatic admission to all Keller ISD students who graduate within the top 25%. There's actually a little caveat in the MOU that I'm going to point out in just a minute. The second bullet is waiving the requirement that students submit scores from the ACT or SAT and providing certain financial awards to qualifying and eligible students. So before I make the motion, I do want to point out in the MOU, and I don't know if Amanda, if you've got it on there, but on page 92 in your board book, I did want them to add a consideration because, you know, we've got our policy with class ranking and everything. So I wanted to be sure we were protected in the event that we went away from top 25%. So they actually put in there that if a class rank of a top 25% is not available, that any student with an unweighted GPA of a 3.25 also would qualify for this program for automatic admission to Tarleton. And if you look at number 3, that's probably the bigger piece in terms of what they are doing. There are some automated scholarships that kick in for kids who are in the top 10%. So if they choose to go to Tarleton State as a result of this program, not only would they have automatic admission in the top 25 or with a minimum GPA of 3.25, but they'd also be receiving scholarship money. So this is a partnership with Tarleton State as an MOU. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the MOU between Keller ISD and Tarleton State University as submitted.
Okay, so we've had a recommendation and do I have a motion from
This is
someone?
Bethany. So moved.
Okay, Bev, do I have a second?
I'll second this, Karina.
Karina, okay. All right, any questions about this to Dr. Westfall? Bev, any questions?
Rick, do we have any other agreements like this with any other local universities?
I believe we have one with UNT, but like I said, more and more universities are starting to do this anyway. It's just a way of acknowledging that it's out there.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Karina, questions?
No questions. I'm glad to see these starting to come in. I think it kind of fast tracks things for our kiddos, which is great.
Yep. Brad, any questions?
Yeah, Rick,
Yeah.
do you know if the $1,000 is annual or is it one time or?
Let me take a look at it real quick, make sure I've got the language right, because this is their writing of their MOU. It appears that it's one time because I don't see the language in there as it being an annual event.
Yeah, just as an award guarantee.
Okay. And then another question is does the 3.25 go in effect right now? Or is that only if they don't get the top 25, list?
So if we have a class ranking of top 25, that's what's going to count. If we do not provide a class ranking of top 25, then the unweighted GPA is what kicks in.
Then, okay, all right, thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Chris, any questions?
Sorry about that. I do not have any questions.
Okay. Craig, any questions?
Does a memorandum of understanding like this just stay in effect until we would decide it isn't, or what? How long does it last?
It's in effect. If you look at the 11th part, if you can scroll down there for them, it renews automatically for up to 4 successive annual terms unless terminated by either party with written notice. So
Okay.
4 years unless someone terminates it.
Okay.
Okay. Ruthie, do you have any questions?
No questions. I just, I went to Tarleton one semester and took applied chemistry, and that's where I learned to do my worm cookies. So,
Well,
woo-hoo!
Great.
not in the MOU.
All right. So if I don't have anybody else have any questions? All right. If I don't have any more questions, let's start with our voting. Ruthie, approve or oppose?
Approve.
Brad?
Approved.
Craig?
Approve.
Chris?
Approve.
Bev?
Approved.
Karina?
Approved.
And I approve. That's everybody, right?
That is.
Okay, so 7-0. That's good. All right, so we didn't have anything pulled from the consent agenda. So the next item on the agenda are the preview items. And I'm assuming this is going to be Miss Bigby, a revision to the board policy EIC local academic achievement and class ranking.
You're stuck with me for the next 3.
Okay.
This first one is the EIC, as you said, on class ranking. This particular policy has gone through a lot of eyes and a lot of work to get to you tonight. The counselors and the curriculum instruction and student services people have worked really hard on this one. Once they gave us a set they liked, it went to a multi-stakeholder group on March 5th that included parent, teachers, campus administrators, and district level administrators. The committee members were in agreement with this one. This is going to look a little different than other policies we've shown you in the past because it is a very complicated one and the wording is very different depending on what class you're in, what year you entered freshman year. We have divided it into 3 separate sections, and I'll show you those briefly. So you'll see that we have one section of the policy is for those who enter grade 9 and 17-18, one for 18-19, and then one for 19-20 and after. So every section has its own rules related to class rank. Just to briefly go over those. The changes made to the oldest students are mostly for readability and don't substantially impact the content of the policy. Those kids are about to graduate, so it wouldn't be fair to change anything for the current juniors or seniors. The changes made to the second section are for readability, but there's also a change to the chart for weighted grade system. Before this policy, we had a chart that had every single numerical grade and a weight that attached to it. We have learned that that is not workable. So now we have bands of numerical grades and the weight that attaches to those. The third section is for the freshmen that came in this year and for the grades thereafter, and they've gotten the most substantial changes. They have the same chart that these current sophomores have, but we're also now limiting the calculation of class rank to courses in English, mathematics, science, social studies, economics, and languages other than English. The specific courses will be listed in an exhibit to the policy, and we'll also put those in the course catalog. And the weights to be assigned, like I said, are identical to the current sophomores. We also removed a section related to the district level direction of honoring the top 10 highest ranked at graduation and feel that that should be a campus decision. With all of that, I don't recommend anything right now. I forgot, it's a preview. I will bring this back to you next month at your regular April board meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And we also have a couple of experts in the house if you need to ask questions of them.
And before it jumps into questions, Cindy, I'm just going to tag on to Amanda real quick. The new charts that the trustees see with those banding grades, those are aligned to what College Board recommends. So this is an effort to try to align our own practices to what you'll see nationally when College Board starts to get involved with their recommendations as well. So that's the reason why you see the bandings of grades versus a grade point for every grade.
Okay, so let's start with questions. Ruthie, do you have questions?
No questions.
Okay. Karina, questions?
No, not yet. I guess I've got some great reading while we're all stuck at home.
That's right. Chris?
I'm in the exact same boat.
Okay. Craig, any questions?
No, not right now.
Right. Brad, any questions?
Just a comment. Rick, when you first came, I guess a couple years back, I forget how long you've been here for a while now.
Brad, I knew you were going to bring this up.
We talked about this then, and I said, I voted against it. And I said, this thing's not right still. And you were new and, you know, trying to figure everything out still, but I'm glad we're coming back and working on it again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Bev, any questions?
Not really a question, because I have been having multiple conversations with Rick about this, but as a parent of a freshman who's gotten a lot of complaints from parents, I think the new range grade chart is going to solve everyone's issues that they had with this, because it now have what seems to be a normal, or what we're used to seeing, type of GPA versus, you know, all A's and having a 3.2. So thank you for fixing this.
Yep.
Okay. I guess, you know, as you just said, that if we have lots of time on our hands now, if we have questions for Amanda, she doesn't have a lot of time on her hands, but we do. So it looks like it's been well thought out, and I'll be glad just to kind of have it settled in a more concrete way. I think it's been, and once we get those juniors gone, it'll be much better for everybody. It's going to be hard for the counselors until they're gone, for getting it all
Hard to
figured
keep
out,
track of, but I also, before we hop off this, I also want to be sure that you know the amount of work that Leslie Shepard and Jennifer Todd did to get us to this point of digging through other policies and just the conversations with counselors to see what was going to be workable. Because you're right, Cindy. Counselors are going to have to figure out how to have 3 different conversations depending on the students sitting in front of them for a little bit until people matriculate out. So it'll be challenging, but based on their work, I think this is really gonna, we're landing in a better place with this policy. Because this is a lot to consume on this one, feel free over the course of the month to shoot me an email, and we'll be sure if you've got any questions, I'll get you the information you need before the action item next month.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on now to the revision of the next policy, DEC local, compensation and benefits, leaves and absences.
All right, now we're on page 114, or if you're following along with me. Policy DEC is another one we're bringing back with local recommendations. Human Resources had a committee that worked on this one, and then it also went to that March 5th multi-stakeholder group, which was also an approval of the recommended changes. There are 3 primary areas that we saw necessary changes for. We have included the addition of 2 days of wellness leave per year that will not accumulate from year to year. We have the limited ability to donate accumulated state and local days to family members who are within the 1st degree of consanguinity or the 1st degree of affinity, which is a very fancy lawyer way to say to children, parents, or spouses. And we have also done extensive revisions to the sick leave bank program and loosened that up substantially to better meet the needs of our employees. We weren't seeing quite enough usage of the sick leave bank, to be fair, we thought. So this opens it up a little bit, and hopefully more people could take advantage of that bank. Like the others, this policy will return to you for action at your regular board meeting in April, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Amanda? Any questions?
No.
Okay. I think I like the wellness policy a lot, and I liked also the fact that you had more specificity in who was eligible for the donated time and the sharing of the time. I think it's good for people not to just assume that just because your spouse can give you something unless there's a real reason for it. So I thought that was helpful to everybody. So, all right, let's move on to a really long preview item. Revision to the board policies part of TASB Update 114 and all those local policies. The local policies as stated.
We're on to page 126. This is Texas Association of School Board, or TASB Update 114. This is almost entirely to do with the last legislative session. So this is a whopper of a policy. A lot of legal policies changed, but these are your local policies that need revisions based on that legislative session. BE, board meetings, has a minor change that we've moved from a 2-hour to a 1-hour notice requirement in the event we have to have an emergency meeting. BD on public comment has some pretty substantial revisions based on House Bill 2840. The way we do public comment is already in compliance, but this draws the policy in alignment with that, with the legal changes. CDA is on investments. This is a little out of my wheelhouse, but it is also recommended for changes. The policy would permit the district to invest bond proceeds or pledged revenue in accordance with law. And it clarifies the exercise the option to invest in bond proceeds. The investments cannot be made in no-load mutual funds. And then there's also a revision to language based on GASB change in their terminology. CH for purchasing procedures. It requires the district to have purchasing procedures to comply with various laws, and the recommended policy text requires the superintendent to develop those procedures. CKC on emergency operation plans requires us to include active shooter response procedures within our plans, and also ensure that we have processes in place to make sure substitute teachers can comply with the emergency plans when they're on the campus. That was in relation to House Bill 2195 and Senate Bill 11. CQ on technology resources moves the security breach notification section to CQB, and that's the only change to that one. CQB is a new policy related to cybersecurity, and it is in response to Senate Bill 820 and House Bill 3834. It addresses cybersecurity training for employees and trustees. You guys get to do it too. We're not going to leave you out of this one. And the new code provisions related to that particular law. The security breach text has been revised a little bit from CQ and then moved into this policy. Policy DFFA on furloughs is a very minimal change, just to change the note that it is in chapter 42 to chapter 48. DH on firearms is going to go along with GKA that we'll see in a minute, and it's related to House Bill 1143. We're no longer allowed to dictate how a gun in a parked car out of view can be stored. So the language is changed to make sure when we're in alignment with that House bill. EHBB on gifted and talented has some pretty substantial changes to pull it in line with House Bill 3. And I'll leave those to your reading because they're pretty extensive, but it's an overhaul of the GT situation in alignment with House Bill 3. FDE on school safety transfers is in relation to TEA's unsafe school choice option guidance handbook, and it changes up the list of violent crimes that which would allow for a transfer to another school. FFAA is on UIL physicals. Its ads band is a group that has to have a physical for pre-participation in a UIL activity. They went ahead and broadened it up in the event UIL changes their mind again to allow for the superintendent to designate other activities that would require a physical. FFB is on threat assessments in relation to Senate Bill 11. Good news is we were way ahead of the curve on this one and already comply with this law. But this puts threat assessments into the policy as a statutory requirement. FFBA, we're also ahead of the curve. It's trauma-informed care. Senate Bill 11 also required a great deal of stuff related to trauma-informed care and providing that to our students. Again, it's something we're already doing, but it's now put into FFBA pursuant to Senate Bill 11. FL is on student records, and it really is just telling us that if you're on the threat assessment team, you have the right to look at records if you have an educational need to do so. GBAA is on public information requests, and it kind of goes back to our resolution. Senate Bill 494 permitted a suspension of the Public Information Act, at least certain provisions, while we're in a state of an emergency. So this is a brand new law that's allowing us to do that. We could do an initial 7 days on the basis of the superintendent, and then it had to come to the board, which we've done tonight. And then as referenced before, GKA on firearms, this just pulls the same language from DH local on employees to the public. So House Bill 1143 prohibits us from dictating how those can be stored. All of these policies also went to that March 5th committee who reviewed them and approved these changes. And these will come back to you in April for action. Cindy, you're muted.
All right, anybody have any questions for Amanda?
Nope.
Okay, again, we're going to have a lot of time to go over these, and that's so exciting.
I have a comment. I have a question or comment, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, this is Brad. Amanda, on the first one, the BE, where it talks about 2 hours instead of 1 hour.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I don't know where the state's coming from, the state or TASB, but my concern is, maybe not all the trustees are going to make the meeting. If you're not on your phone, if you're not watching your phone for an hour, you could miss it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm concerned about. So I hate to see it go to 1 hour.
Sure, certainly. Senate Bill 494 just allowed it to go to an hour. Obviously, we would always want to give you as much notice as possible, but I certainly understand the concern.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
But that's we're reducing the amount of time to provide public notice, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, it's 72 hours. And this would allow us to go down to 1 hour in the event of a big emergency. This situation was kind of an emergency, but we still had plenty of time to give the 72 hours notice. So we obviously did.
So just to make sure that, Amanda, I fully understand it, to Chris' point and to Brad's question, this isn't about notification of the trustees. This is the paper posting that's on the door, essentially,
Right.
that in an emergency situation can be done an hour in advance. Is that?
The way it is phrased is notice to members.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
the members of the board shall be given notice of regular and special meetings at least 72 hours or at least 1 hour prior to the time of the emergency meeting. It was always there but it was just 2 hours before.
Instead of 1.
After Hurricane Harvey, there were some calls to reduce it just because there was such an urgent need to get the board together for things like repairs to their buildings. But to be honest, I don't foresee a time we would need certainly less than 2 hours, but it's there in the event we did.
Okay. Anybody else?
And maybe this is a question for another time. The cybersecurity training, I'm assuming that will likely be available this summer at TASB.
Should be.
Potentially. The difficulty is it has to be through an approver, a provider approved by the state. So unless one of those show up to TASB, it won't count. We do have one already on board through our Safe Schools program, and we should be able to launch it relatively soon. So while we do have some time on our hands, you may be able to go ahead and watch that. I believe it's less than an hour and a half, but every employee with an email address will have to do that as well as you guys.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I got choked. All right, the next item on the on the agenda is discussion items.
That would be me. So for my update tonight, I'm just going to go ahead. I've got something written up. I want to make sure I tackle all the things that I wanted to discuss with you. So bear with me while I read through this. Before I get into the details of this update, I want to thank the staff and Keller ISD. There's been no stone unturned in the past week to put resources in the hands of our teachers, parents, and students, as well as taking care of the most basic needs of our students. In a matter of 7 days, our team has worked to create a system that under normal circumstances should take at least 12 months. I'm not saying this should be the new expectation moving forward. This has been messy, and we have cast caution aside in many cases in order to get the right materials in the right hands. But it was a moral imperative to do so, and the Keller ISD team did it. So now we embark on the next 2 weeks where we begin to dip our toes in the waters of e-learning. There will be no grades taken for the next 2 weeks, but an appropriate level of learning is expected. If you have ever heard of the summer slide, it's a real thing. We don't need a spring slide on top of a summer slide, so whatever we can do to re-engage in an emotionally healthy way, we will do. So here's some specifics I want to make sure the board hears and the public hears me say. As you know, the governor has shut down or closed down schools through Friday, April the 3rd. As we get closer to that date, we will hear more from him and or Judge Whitley here in Tarrant County, advising all schools what the next steps should be. I join over 1,000 people on daily calls with TEA, followed up by a call with Judge Whitley. The frequency will likely start to lessen, but we are getting our information from the source, and often that information changes in a matter of days, if not hours. As of today, we have served, wait for it, 26,216 meals to those who have come up to our improvised drive-thrus at the 11 designated campuses. Health screenings occur each day for the employees working to ensure we are being as safe as possible. We have requests for over 9,000 Chromebooks and over 1,000 hotspots so our students can access the lessons that will be provided. Frankly, and this is the transparent part of this conversation, we don't have enough devices or hotspots. So we're going to do everything we can, and we're going to need to ask our community to work through this with us and limit when possible how many devices they will need as a family. It's going to be messy, but we'll get through it. We have engaged our community through every possible mode of communication. We have had nearly 80,000 views collectively on our videos, 2 COVID-19 updates to the community, Keller ISD's checkup video from key departments, and the Facebook Live reading on Friday. That doesn't include all the videos that individual departments and teachers are doing. Zoom meetings with staff began almost immediately to start working on planning. A perfect example is the meeting we are in right now. The advanced work of synchronizing Zoom with YouTube was not just an overnight project. Our tech team saw an opportunity almost a year ago and had already created this avenue. We've created over 500 lessons across the entire curriculum to support our teachers, parents, and students as we step into our e-learning environment. We have created a digital platform specifically to support our teachers while they are learning how to provide digital lessons. It should be noted this platform was already partially created and being used before these latest events. That, along with so many other things that we were quickly able to put in place, demonstrates the forward thinking of our staff, separate and apart from a crisis. I conducted our first ever all district faculty Zoom meeting last Monday, telling the staff what we knew and fielded questions. We have another staff meeting scheduled for tomorrow as a check-in, now that we have embarked on this next phase of our journey. Trustees, I want to assure you of this. Every employee in Keller ISD has stepped up, and in many cases are asking us how to do more. We have created opportunities, systems, and processes that are innovative and right-sized for the moment. I'm proud of what we have accomplished, and I know that we are going to come out of this better on the other side. Coach Conger at Timber Creek High School tweeted, I know you'll be shocked that there was something on Twitter, tweeted this at the end of the week last week, and I believe it 100%. He said, I believe we are all in the longest, most successful and productive professional development ever offered. Undoubtedly, every educator has grown the last 5 days, which means all better because of it. President Lawton, I'm open to any questions before we wrap up this portion of the agenda.
Thank you. All right, let's start with Bev. Do you have any questions or comments or?
I just want to reiterate, and I know I expressed this to Dr. Westphal and some of the staff. I've been extremely impressed with what we've been doing. I know we have part of our population that we're really struggling to figure out how to meet their needs, but I feel like every step of the term we've down this path, the district has already thought ahead, and there's somebody coming up with some way to solve the problem. And as a parent and as a board member and as a community member, I just want to say thank you there.
Agreed. Brad, any comments?
Just a question or clarification for me. It talked about on the scheduling, May 23rd, the graduation. Is there a graduation? Or I heard that there wasn't. And
We're not quite there yet. Right
Yeah,
now, we're
so,
talking
okay.
about.
And I don't mind addressing that, Cindy.
Okay.
You know, the question came up, and it's a good time to talk about it. I'm going to tell you exactly what I have actually I've had a couple of our senior students email me directly about that, about graduations, about proms, and I'll tell the board exactly what I've told them. I get how huge those two events are in the life of a senior. We will not make any decisions about cancellation until the very last possible minute of us having to worry about that. We're in conversations right now, just about, you know, is it possible to even reschedule some of these things? But right now we're kind of at the mercy of what we're being told. So the reality is, if we're still under any kind of a restriction of a certain number of people who can gather in one place, if that restriction is still on May 23rd, then we already know our answer. But that's that crystal ball moment that we just don't know what we hold, you know, in 2 months on that. But I'm going to hold tight to that date until I'm told otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Craig, any comments? Questions?
I agree that I feel like we've just done an amazing job. I know that in higher education, colleges and universities had to figure this out very quickly. K-12, much bigger, arguably much more complex when you go from how do you educate first graders to seniors and everybody in between. So I appreciate all the work that's being done. Loved the parade the other day. I think it was fun to see people come out of their houses and cheer while people drove by. So I appreciate everything. The feeding people who otherwise wouldn't be eating, incredibly important. Rick, I had a question for you about the whole, knowing that education is considered essential and we have some latitude even with things like shelter in place. I'm just curious, as district leadership, do you have some people in central admin doing work, or is it just anybody? How is that working?
We're all working. Where we're working is different.
Yes.
So we're, you know, in terms of we have a skeletal crew up at central office because payroll still hits on the 26th and purchase orders still need to get processed, which those things, while maybe we could do it remotely, those are things you don't want to risk trying to do remotely. So we still have people that go up just for the purpose of keeping the business and the operations moving, but it's a very, very, very small number of people.
Right.
And they're always 6 feet apart from each other.
Let me make sure I'm clear. I know everybody's working. I just didn't know if the physical presence part was.
Yeah. So literally, I mean, we've been using Zoom like crazy, but in the building itself on 350 Keller Parkway, you might see an occasional car or cars up there because we have that skeletal crew that's still working, but it's a lot smaller than normal.
Understandable. Thank you.
Bet.
Okay, Ruthie, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to just ditto everybody else's comments about what a great job everybody has done. It's just, we've pulled together and everybody worked, you know, fast and furious, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's true. Karina?
No questions, echoing much of what everybody else has said. You know, I have multiple friends in other districts, and as I talk to them and what their districts are doing versus what we're doing, it continues to tell me I'm in the right place. I'm glad we have the resources we have. I'm glad we have the teams we have, because I think overall we're doing a phenomenal job even in really difficult times. So thank you to everybody who's working so hard.
Chris?
Yeah. I couldn't be more proud to be a part of a district that is doing what we're doing in such difficult and strained times. The parades that came around yesterday, the noise in the street, the people that came out, the video that I saw while we were in our practice session, hundreds of people out on the streets watching the cars go by, although keeping
6
their
feet apart.
distance. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. But such an emotional uplift for the entire neighborhood. People were, talking about it and excited about it, and the passion and the love that I've seen come through the emails to the kids, and the parents have been copied, and I just couldn't be more proud. I've received emails not only from parents but from students saying, is there something that I can do to get involved? And while I haven't had a great answer because we are closed as a district, I am just beside myself proud of the outpouring of emotion and willingness of our parents and our kids to jump in wherever they can and to help out during these trying times. So just wow. That's all you can really say is wow.
I completely agree. I think
Cindy, you
Muted.
muted yourself. There you go.
put it perfectly last week when he said, this is like building the airplane when you're already up in the air. I thought that's a pretty good analogy of we are all just trying to do the best we can. But I agree. I cannot tell you how we are light years ahead of what's going on just very close by. So I appreciate that.
If I could add,
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you're done.
Yeah.
If I could add to that, I sat on one of the phone calls that Rick led, and I thought you did a masterful job in running the call. I know you have a group of people who work with you and behind you who are feeding information to you, but in the way that you work through a number of difficult questions. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? I really appreciate the way you did that. It's been a very, very well done job.
Thank you.
I appreciate your leadership.
And with that, I will tell you that the scheduling and upcoming events are subject to change in light of the ongoing efforts to contain COVID-19.
We can look at those dates. I'm not entirely sure which one of them actually will hold as is, other than I know for sure we'll still have board meetings. So April the 27th and May the 18th, we're going to have board meetings. Whether we're going to be in person or back here again, we'll decide that. I was actually talking to Amanda before the meeting. I don't even know yet in terms of the elections. I'm not certain what local officials have decided on elections. I know we don't have to worry about that as a school district, but I did want to still leave that on the agenda. But as you probably know, that has been put out there by the governor, that if they do change any elections, it's going to get pushed to November. And I don't think the current conversations have been whether or not he's just going to mandate that, but I don't know that that's happened or if any of our local bodies have taken action on it. And then I'm going with positive thinking, and that's the reason why graduation's still stuck on that agenda, that we're going to have graduation on the 23rd as planned. So we'll keep you posted as we learn more about that. That's all I've got.
Okay, well, unless anybody has anything else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Ruthie, okay. So I'll go through the list one last time and approve or oppose. Craig?
Approve.
Brad?
Approved.
Karina?
Approved.
Bev?
Approved.
Ruthie?
Approved.
Chris?
Approve.
And I approve. It is 8:04 and we are finished.
Thank you, trustees. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Success.